All right. Good afternoon and welcome everyone. This is our monthly TAT chat. We've been doing this now since uh, April of 2010. It's hard to believe it's more than 5 years and have great speakers and great information. And nobody had to get in the car and add to the traffic on 85 or 385 or any of our other roads here in the upstate. So appreciate you being with us today for this August TAT Chat. Um, I'm Dean Hebel. I'm the Executive Director of TATT at the Top, and um, I'm going to just give a brief overview and an update on what's going on before we get started with our presentations for today. Please feel free if you would like to put your name and organization in the chat, especially if you're new or if you've got anything going on in your organization or a community that you want others to know about. We're happy for you to share that with others on the chat. Um, it's been a busy year, as always, for TATT at the Top. Through July, we've completed 41 regional engagements with about 1,140 participants. The next month or so is going to be especially busy, and I'll mention some of those here in a minute. Um, for those who are interested in community vibrancy, especially if you're engaged within your local community or neighborhood group or anything, we are in the process of accepting the Elevate Upstate Hughes Investment Elevate Upstate grants, not application forms for this year. Celeste has put the link in the chat. The deadline is September 12th, and we have 3 grants of $5,000 that are to support local vibrancy across the upstate. We've been doing this program since 2013. So if you're interested, you've still got a month before the deadline for the grants. Tomorrow we will be in Clemson at the Neary Family Alumni and Visitor Center for our monthly Upstate Connect. We're very excited. It's going to be about town and gown. We have Robert Halfacre, the mayor of the city of Clemson, and Julio Hernandez from Clemson University, who will be talking about the relationship between the college and the college campus and the local community there in Clemson. We are full for that session. So if you are planning to go, I hope you're able to join us for that. Be on the lookout. We will not be doing a Upstate Connect in September, but we have our next one in October scheduled, and we'll be at VCOM in Spartanburg. So be on the lookout for information about that. The Resilient Upstate Resource Rollout, if you've been involved with TATT at the Top at all over the last couple of years, you've heard us talk about this behavioral health initiative that includes about or over 100 partners from across the upstate region. We will be actually rolling out the resources at the Gibbs Cancer Center on September 17th. Very excited about that. And there also is so the link is there for the registration for that event, but also Celeste is going to put in the link to the resource pages. If you want to check out, we have information we have a workplace toolkit. There is information for a career pipeline in fields related to behavioral health, and then also some material and information about reducing the stigma related to behavioral health. So very excited about that, and that event is coming up on the 17th of September. We will be starting year 2 of the Upstate Downtown Academy on September 18th. We'll be at the city of Seneca. For that, we're pretty close. I think we still have 5 or 6 spots left, but we've gotten a lot of great traction of registration for that event. So if you're interested in joining us in Seneca on September 18th, be sure and check out the link and register as soon as you can. It's fun. We go to the different community and we do a walking tour. We hear from leaders within that community, and then we have a Dutch treat dinner, everybody at a restaurant there in town. So it's a fun evening, and Seneca is one of those communities. They're actually having their monthly music event on the Thursday. We'll be there. So it should be a lot of fun in Seneca on September 18th. I also, of course, want to thank our funding partners for your support of 10 at the Top. We're very fortunate to have over 100 funding supporters of this organization, and Celeste is putting the link to our current partners. If you are not a partner and would like to be, don't worry, we have room for you. So please feel free to look at the information and give me a call if you would like to talk about becoming a 10 at the Top funding supporter. With that, I think I saw Rebecca come in, right, Celeste? Rebecca, are you
I'm
here?
here. Yes, I joined.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was having a little technical difficulty.
Oh, that's no problem at all. Well, it's great to meet you virtually and
Thank
to
you.
have you with us today, and to share about what's going on related to the state workforce development programs. I know you're in a new position, I believe, there. So they've, of course, put the new person on the firing line, but
Yeah.
we're very glad to have you, and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much. I do have a presentation and I can share my screen if that would work for y'all.
Yes, that'll be
But
fine.
just for y'all to know a little bit about me, my name's Rebecca Battle Bryant. I prefer to go by Rebecca. Don't stand on ceremony. I hope that y'all will view us as your workforce partner here in the State Office of Workforce Development. And yeah, I had to have a complicated name to go with a complicated job, but that's okay. We'll talk about what all that means. But I do not believe in acronyms. I believe in saying it all out. So we'll muddle through that. Okay. But just so y'all know, I have worked in the workforce area for the last 25 plus years. I have a very varied background in that I've worked in private industry, in utilities. I worked in natural gas operations for SCANA Corporation, in addition to running their call centers and their total quality effort when I was in the gas strategic business unit. I've worked in higher education for 11 years as an administrator and as a teacher. So I've been in the classroom on the credit and non-credit side of the house. And then about 10 to 12 years ago, I was at DUE for a stint as the assistant executive director at that time for workforce and economic development. And then I was lured away by United Infrastructure Group, which is doing a lot of that bridge work up toward Newberry from Columbia, if y'all have had the joy of driving through that. And I basically helped a third generation family owned bridge company set up an HR department, and was on the firing line trying to hire, fire and recruit, retain the workforce. And so I've literally been in y'all's shoes. About 6 years ago, I did start my own company, and it was called Battle Plan Consulting, and I did basically human resource and workforce consulting. So I have, like I said, I've seen workforce from every angle. And so when they approached me about serving in this role, I was not only very honored and humbled by that opportunity, and it was really a difficult decision in that my company was really taking off and going in great directions. But I'm also very passionate about workforce and the complexity of it in our state. What I like to tell people is that we have pockets of brilliance all over the place. We're all trying to do our thing to address why we can't find and keep great people. And about 3 years ago, I did a research study, and I'll get into that in just a minute, but I did a research study for the South Carolina Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which is based in Greenville. And I had the opportunity to interview small, medium, and large companies throughout South Carolina. And when we talked to them about their workforce issues, it's centered around 3 areas, which I'll share in my slideshow. But as a result of that, I really heard some amazing stories. And so I feel like, everybody's trying to do their part to recruit, retain good people. They're doing it in their particular perspective. And what I hope that this office will be is kind of the purveyor of best practices, good ideas, and pushing out projects that we can use to work in order to try to not only capture, but maximize the collective effort if we all, join forces and shared our resources and worked toward a common cause. So that's just a little bit about me. Are there any questions before I get started? I hate doing PowerPoint on these things, y'all, because I'm the person that walks around and doesn't use the podium. So this kind of kills me. But are there any questions before I get going?
I don't think so, Rebecca. And as you know, workforce is such a critical component here. So we appreciate you sharing that background. And if you want to go ahead and share your screen, we should be all good.
Okay, I will get that going then. I want to make sure it's the right one. I think this is it. Screen 3. And can y'all see that? Let me see, share. Let's see, hopefully it'll come through. And I'm going to start from the beginning. Can y'all see the presentation?
Yes, I think you
Looks
want to
good.
put it in to the mode where you're, what's it called? Presentation mode.
So you do see presentation mode?
No, we see the full.
Okay, hold
screen.
on. Let me go back and try again. Let's see, full presentation. There we go. Y'all good now?
Yep.
Okay. So bottom line, the reason we are in this situation right now where we are at is that we I hope it'll move forward. Let me go to the next slide. The workforce is changing a lot. And I'm going to give you some contextual background of things that are going on. Sometimes we're so nose to the grindstone, we don't, stop and smell the roses. Well, what's going on? But the last 20 years, I'm sure all of us could agree that we've seen just maximum change in our workplaces, in our worlds, and even in society and our culture. And everything has changed. And there's, really a large driver of that. There's many drivers, but the largest is really technology. Usually I ask y'all, but I'm not going to do that. It's too hard with online. But there's, the things have changed. And the research that I did, and that research is available. The research that I did for SCMEP is now titled and published as the Workforce Development Playbook, and it is available to all of you free of charge. Through the South Carolina Manufacturing Extension Partnership. So if you just type SCMEP Workforce Development Playbook, you can download a copy of this. But we basically told stories about what we saw happening in our workplace. And when we asked questions related to workforce, all companies, when we coded the data, all of the answers fell in these 3 areas. It's how am I recruiting people? How do I keep people, which is retention, and what is our reputation? And, down here in the South, if your reputation isn't so good, we talk about you. And a lot of that talking happens at the church and at the Walmart and at the CVS. And so, I tell people, if your reputation at where you need it to be, then your recruitment and retention strategies are almost moot. So especially in small rural areas, maybe not so much urban Greenville, but in our rural areas outside of Greenville, it could be very impactful. So this is just, to give you that context because it's impacting all of us. I bring this up about generations. And normally I would ask a question, like how are we split? But you can find where you are. But the technology, I mentioned technology has changed our workforce and our workplaces. Just think of the changes that have happened on your respective operations floors, your organization's processes. But not only that, the technology has impacted our generations and the generational differences that are happening at work. And right now we have 5 generations at work. And I do say that 5 generations are there, even the oldest. My mother will be 80 this month, and she's still working. She is a project cost controls consultant for AECOM. So she's out there working and doesn't want to quit because she thinks her brain will go to mush. Her husband also works. So we still have people, and everywhere I go, there's usually 1 or 2 they're still hanging on in their 70s and 80s, still working, not wanting to, be home by themselves or whatever. But now we've got also on the other end of the spectrum, Generation Z. But there is a cultural divide really between our millennials and Gen Zs and our Xers and our baby boomers. Well, our baby boomers are basically leaving the job market based on retirement and based, on other factors. Gen Z was a small group to begin with, and they also left the workplace in record numbers. The oldest Gen Z will be 60 this year. And so they left the workplace and during COVID, and I left a year before COVID to start my company, just kind of ready to go try my thing, and just didn't see that I didn't need to wait for retirement. I wanted to go do my thing, and apparently a lot of my peer group felt the same way. So by virtue of our age, we should be in management, but we were a small group anyway, population numbers, but then a lot of us left the workplace and didn't come back after COVID. So that precipitated what you see over here, which are our darker coral and red bars, which is our millennials moved into management at a much faster rate than perhaps the boomers or the Xers did. But interestingly, even our Gen Zs not only entered the workplace, but a lot of them are already in supervision and management in our workplaces. Well, I bring this up to you mainly for you to be aware that just their shift and how they think about work, and some of you probably are millennial and Gen Z, I don't know, but how they feel about work is way different than how, and Gen Xers are pretty flexible. They're kind of your problem solver. I call them the bridge builders between translating what boomers want and what millennials want, because a lot of us are the parents of these guys over here, ladies. And so you've got that dynamic. But I put this up here to show you that whether you like it or not, and what they want or not, they are 55% of your potential workforce. And this is our reality, and how we do workforce development in education, higher education, and in our workplaces has got to fundamentally change if you are going to have a chance of finding and keeping this younger generation. So I just want you to see that in terms of just their numbers, and they're increasing by the day. And in this previous slide, I did want to mention Generation Alpha will spin out from this, and Generation Alpha was born they haven't really given them a lot of definition yet, but they are saying they're born between 2013 and 15, which means today, this year, they're 12 to 0. And if that's the case, they're going to be in your workplaces in 6 years if they don't go to college. And if you think Gen Z is a hot little mess, just think about Generation Alpha, who was, if they're in this age group, in kindergarten through second grade during the COVID pandemic. So if we think we've had educational barriers for this generation, we're not just going to have educational barriers, but potentially developmental barriers that are going to have to be addressed. And I tell workplaces, please be aware that what you have trained in the past was typically technical skills. I will argue that it's probably going to need to be a lot more fundamental skills. You might have to go back and cover some, basic things, especially communication, time management, and interpersonal interactions for sure. I do show you this graph. This just came out about last month. I'm going to put my glasses on because I'm that age. I'm a Gen Xer. I won't let you know where in the range I fall, but I'm in that group. But this was from last month, and it was an article in Business Insider, and just said job searching. It's a mess no matter how old you are. But basically what you see is obviously our boomers are retiring out. Our Gen Zs have never, really been a large group. The silent generation is definitely going down, but Gen Z is right here, but they're tapping out. Boomers are out. Gen Zs have been going up, but they're tapping out right about here. And then our millennials, they started about here and they're growing, but you will see here, Gen Z is about 10 to 20%. And anecdotally from the classes I taught in my consultancy, I can tell you that. So they are definitely a force in our workforce. And this is the paradigm from which I want you to frame the rest of what I'm going to talk about, the CCWD, the Office of Workforce Development, and our projects that we're focusing on, and why not one person, not Rebecca, not Charles Appleby, not Robert Davis, none of us can do this by ourselves. It's going to be a collective effort of collaboration and partnership. But this is from a book, and I highly recommend it, called It's the Manager by Jim Clifton and Jim Harder. And it's Gallup Research Institute, and they interviewed and researched over 18,000 people. And their framework for the whole book was that in the past, which I will basically say is our Gen Xers and our boomers, they were more driven by their paycheck, whether they were satisfied at work, their boss, getting an annual performance review. That was always a big deal. And then you moved on from it and went away. Well, our younger workforce, which is 55% of yours, it is all about the future. Their world is not about their job. Baby boomers self-identified by, what do you do? Well, what do you do? And that's how they'd introduce themselves. With Gen Zs, it's more like, what's your passion? What's your purpose? And I'm going to show you data that backs me up on this. So this is national and international data I'm showing you now. I'm going to share some results of some perception studies we just did, but they're more interested in what's their purpose and how your job aligns with that. They're interested in what you plan to do to develop them, and they recognize they need to be developed. And one of the things that blows people's minds, and you'll see it in the South Carolina data I'm about to show you, is that they are hungry for someone to share with them how to network and communicate better. They just don't know how to ask for it. They know that they've been stymied by the technology. The technology has literally impacted how they communicate. They don't talk. Eye contact can be a problem. The funny trend in the articles about 2 weeks ago was about the stare. And like they were saying that when you ask a Gen Z a question, they just stare at you and don't answer. They just stare at you. And one of the career services people at Clemson said, I prefer to think in my mind that they're buffering my information. Regardless, it was hysterical. I'm sorry, I laugh. And I am also going to tell you I'm a generational expert because my first ha laugh in life was I married a boomer, and he was significantly older than me. And then I'm a Gen Xer. And then I was his first midlife crisis, which is one reason I'm hyphenated. The second midlife crisis was 11 years after we were married. We gave birth to a Gen Z. So yeah, I live with boomer and Gen Z every single day. Well, not now. She's at Clemson, but I have lived it, and then have my mama who's the traditionalist. So it's been a lot of fun. But these people want you to be their coaches, and they don't want an annual review. They want a weekly conversation or a daily conversation. It doesn't have to be a lot, y'all, but it needs to be something. So I've shared with you contextually this, and then I'm going to move into what we're doing here, why I'm here. I am here because I have a passion for workforce development, and I have a passion for these young people. And I have a passion for you because I have been in your shoes. I don't do acronyms, but I'm like CCWD, OSWD. What in the world does all this mean? The CCWD is actually a coordinating council of engaged business partners and government agencies and education providers throughout our state. There has been a council in place for many years. And even when I was at DU the first time, and I do know about the definition of insanity, do it again, but no, it's a different concept. I'm not at DU per se. I'm just working here in the building. But anyway, the CCWD was there, and it was mainly government agencies. But about 2 years ago, legislation passed from the Speaker of the House, Merle Smith, and he wanted to make this a more engaged board that was actively involved in working toward partnering and collaborating with all of our partners to tap into the pockets of brilliance that each of us are working in our respective silos, but to break down those silos. And one of the ways he saw to do that, and the legislature saw to do that, was to add more members to the board. And you might think to yourself, if you're on a board, which I've been, oh my gosh, when it gets too big, it's crazy. But one of my goals coming here is that we're going to make this an engaged board. And our activities, when they're all gathered, is to get what's in their brain out on paper and to set strategic direction and projects for us. So we've already started that this summer, I'm happy to report. We're not going to be sitting around lecturing like I feel like I'm doing now. And y'all interrupt me. I can't see the chat page, but if somebody needs to interrupt, y'all just tell me there's a chat question or whatever. Ask questions as we go. But this board is out there. It is public meetings. You are welcome to attend. They're on Zoom. If it doesn't make sense to come to Columbia, there is an executive committee that is primarily the agencies like DEW, DEW, the Department of Employment and Workforce, Department of Commerce, Department of Education. We've got a legislative representation on the executive committee, Commission on Higher Ed. So we try to have the major workforce partners on that executive committee. But this board was largely expanded. And I'll show you a quick picture. I don't want to get into it, but you can see it's expanded, but we also have more business and industry represented, and the governor has to appoint them. But we have 5 names in the hopper right now that represent manufacturing, construction, healthcare, and advanced energy.
Everything for the Department
did
of
you-
Office of Adult Ed goes up through her.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, that
okay.
name sounds familiar.
So anyway, that's what the CCWD is. It's this overseeing board, but the public is welcome. Then my office is we are what I call the project managers of whatever strategic direction this group comes up with. I am on the executive committee and I am a voting member of that executive committee. So I do have a voice and I represent all of you. So I just want you to be aware that I'm that voice and I want you to look at me as your partner and that we can talk anytime. And if I'm going, haywire or crazy, you can tell me that. I'm totally open to good feedback. I'm real humble about this because we just have to all work together. But the office that I have is not another government bureaucracy. There's just 4 of us, and we are all project managers, boots on the ground in your local communities, trying to spread the workforce gospel, if you will, and try to help us collect best practices and implement some strategic initiatives. Last year, the strategic initiative was, and this was legislated, to develop a unified state plan. That is complete now. That was a project that was completed. And then as a result of that, we will align ourselves along some specific projects, which I'm about to share with you. And I want to be respectful of your time too. But anyway, so some specific projects here, and I'll share with you more about that. So that's kind of a high level view of what we do. There's the council, that unified state plan, which was last year's big project. The vision of this, and all of the partners that are on that big CCWD signed off on this, saying we are going to work together. We're going to share data. We're going to try to overcome some of the bureaucratic barriers that have been in place, if you will, in the past. So this is what we've done. And all of our work is to, help South Carolina. What we represent is all of you and South Carolina, not one agency, but all, not one business, but all. And so we are collaborating, coordinating, and implementing what strategies the CCWD directs us to do. The activities will be centered in areas that are about how aware people are of jobs in South Carolina, what skills are needed to be in those very critical jobs in South Carolina, and the obstacles that prevent people from participating in the labor force. So these are the 3 pillars of what we stand for and what we try to work toward. Another goal, in addition to the Unified State Plan last year, was to understand how aware average South Carolinians are about our workforce efforts to date in South Carolina and occupations and career opportunities in South Carolina. And I'm about to share that with you. So this is just a graphic representation of the things that we're working on and the goals that we have. We are action oriented. We're not here to sit around, and we're not think tank. We're not writing white papers. We are boots on the ground trying to fulfill the strategies that are set before us by the CCWD. So I typically ask if I'm in front of a large group, but I don't want to take time from, the awkwardness of Zoom, but how many different occupations exist in South Carolina? And right now in South Carolina, we do have over 800 occupations. And so then what we tried to do, and this was again another project for last year, identify what are the high priority occupations. Well, how do you define what's high priority? If I'm hiring for a server in this restaurant, to me, that's high priority. We tried to put a little bit of logic behind that. So they went through their economic rigmarole that Rebecca doesn't get because I'm a people person. But here's what they looked at. They did a combination of what is the current demand in the labor market data, where is the future growth, how viable is that job, meaning the livable, sustainable wages that lead to a career, and then what is the turnover or the retention factor as a percent of total employment. So taking these variables into a calculation, they determined that there are approximately 64 high priority occupations. And this is, I think, a powerful slide, and just want you to look at it for a minute. But, I typically go, well, what do you see here? But what I see is that more of our high priority occupations need high school diploma or less, which says to me we need to be engaging with our K through 12 system very heavily. We need to be recruiting. That is your talent pipeline right there. Your jobs are here and they are there. And there is a huge disconnect in the research that we just finished. Approximately 20% of our high school graduates disappear after high school graduation. We know where we can track those that get jobs after high school, and we can track those that go to a higher education, whether technical, college, or 4-year. We don't know what happens to 20%. Now, I'm going to be generous and say, because I'm an Army brat and love our military, that 5 to 10% might join the military. That's what my daughter wants to do post-college. She wants to be a pilot. And so let's say 5 to 10% go. We can't track that data because Department of Defense won't give it to us. So I'm being generous by saying 5 to 10%. I don't know, but I'm just saying that. So then what that means to me is that 10 to 15% of these kids, your potential workforce is walking out the door to disappear and show up later on some other type of database that is not employment. Okay. So the biggest industry that has post secondary requirements is obviously healthcare, and that just makes sense. But I just am pointing this out because we go to the job fairs and career fairs at higher ed, and I highly encourage that. Not saying don't do it, but I think we've got to be more deliberate about how we engage our K through 12 system. And it's not easy. I totally get it. I've been in your shoes and had to recruit from that same place, and it's just not easy. But what we're hoping to do here at the OSWD is find a way to make it easier. So I'm just going to quickly go through these slides from our research that we just did and got back in June. And we asked them how familiar and we surveyed, we sent surveys out to over 800 people, and over 600 responded, which is excellent. They represented all education levels, socioeconomic levels, all areas of the state, all races, ethnicities, and genders. So we felt very good about the statistical reliability of what we got back. The only issue we might have had were what questions we asked, and I'll share that with you in just a second. But we shared with them 8 industries and said, how familiar are you with those industries? And this is the results. So if you are in retail, education, or accommodations and food services, that was the most recognized. I will tell you, in that sample that we did, we oversampled 18 to 24-year-olds to get the Gen Z perspective. So it makes sense if there's a lot heavier number of Gen Zs in here that they would recognize these 3 first, because, you know, their life is about eating, shopping, and going to school. So that kind of makes sense. But for those of us that might be in construction, manufacturing, transportation, logistics, and advanced energy, we've got some work to do. Then we can further break that data out, and you can see in the Greenville area, most people were familiar with retail, trades, and least familiar with advanced energy and utilities. And even if you're, you know, outside of there and in your upper Savannah areas or your upstate, I don't know where y'all encapsulate, but y'all look and see what it is. But the bottom line is we've got a lot of work to do on advanced energy and utilities. But even in our upper Savannah area, not sure if y'all represent those, but transportation was largely unrecognized. But that makes sense because they're not near an interstate system, you know, for the most part, except for Newberry and, well, some of those are, but not all. So then we we broke it out, the numbers out by Gen Z, or by the 18 to 24-year-olds. And you can see that they follow very closely with the general population, but there was definite disadvantages for manufacturing, transportation, and logistics. They weren't tracking consistently there, which says in our high schools, they're not talking about it. We're not getting through there. And I would say that for construction as well. And interestingly, there was a little tick up in advanced energy, but I suspect that is a large part because, and this is something that's very important to our young people, is sustainability, green awareness, recycling. So they're very interested in companies that have a sustainability plan. There are common challenges by industry. If you're in manufacturing, it's the physical demands of the job is what worries them. If advanced energy utilities, it's safety, I guess, being up on the poles and all that kind of stuff. Retail and education and accommodation, it's the low starting wage, and they view healthcare and working in the government as high stress. Other challenges that were interesting, the one most often mentioned, but was never number one, guess what? Long, inflexible, and unpredictable work hours. They're not giving me 40 hours. They make me work too much overtime. I need a life. So again, this went across a variety of industries just to make you aware of that. We also asked, what 3 factors do South Carolinians care most about when considering a job? And we gave them these options to choose from. And interestingly, the good salary and strong earning potential was number 1, which is typical when you're making a job switch. When people leave a job, it is not for this, it is the boss. But number 2, it's health benefits, it's job stability and security is number 3. They want to feel safe and secure. Then we broke it out again by young people, and they tracked again pretty closely, but its salary is less important to them. They're willing to take less money for a company that might provide some of these other things that did stand out. The first thing for them that was way above what their other peers were saying that weren't in their age group is the work schedule and flexibility. And they want opportunities. This goes back to that framework I showed you earlier. They want opportunities that show personal interest, that align with their interest or their passions. And guess what? They want to feel like they belong. And everybody goes, how can that be? They don't talk. They're always on their phone. They are, and they don't know how to ask. And I would just say there is so much that is wild about this generation that as human beings, we need to show a little bit more compassion and grace and try to help them, because they want to belong. They just don't know how to ask for it. And I see this in my daughter's peer group. I will say, if you want to hire my daughter after she graduates, she'll be fine. She's been working for free for 2 independent and employed parents. So she knows what it's like. But anyway, and I will tell you, I've interviewed Gen Zs that are already in leadership, and I asked them, do you identify with your peer group? You're already in leadership. Do you identify with how your generation is described? And they said no. My second question to them, and this was before I came to this job, was then what made the difference? What sets you apart that you're already in leadership and you're not even 28 years old yet? And the answer was 5 things. And the first was that they had parents that spoke truth to them, that told them this is how the world really works. And it was a parent or parents. The second was that it was a coach, because they were in sports, which taught them teamwork. The third was that they had a job. They got a job and it taught them how the world goes. The other was a religious figure. And the 5th was a good boss. So the job or a boss, that's all we can affect in what all of us are trying to do, except if we're parents. Please go speak truth to your kids and get the phone out of their hands. But, teach them how to communicate. So those are some things that we have to be aware of when we're thinking about how we do work and how we talk about workforce. And again, just what I want to show you is that overall, our South Carolinians feel like there's a good perception of our jobs and what jobs are available, but our younger people do not feel that positively. And here we're losing 20% of our high school graduates. And here's the other news flash this study showed us. Our college graduates are walking out of this state in record numbers, and that grows by the year. So we have got to do a better job of getting some stickiness in the college system if those jobs are important to you too. So I just want to throw that out there to you and want to work with you on that. So again, job challenges, the top 3 was lack of available good paying jobs. Not really sure what good paying means to them. My daughter tells me her bestie from high school is now an influencer. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And she's like, no, that's how she supplements her teaching salary. I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, they think they're going to get rich being influencers. We need to show them that you can earn livings in other ways that are more sustainable for the long term. But they feel like there's a lot of mismatch between what jobs are out there and their skills, which means we've got to communicate what skills you need back at the schools. I'm going quick now because I know I'm out of time. I want to share with you this: barriers to employment. It's the traditional ones. How can we as a group get creative, especially about transportation? There is no information on job openings, but yet you're going to tell me I post on LinkedIn, I post on Indeed. If you don't have videos on TikTok, they don't know how to find you. I'm just here to tell you everything they do is on TikTok. And I know a lot of governments can't do that, but that's just where it is. Another thing that I thought was fascinating about this is y'all, they have a fear of interviewing because they are not confident in their communication skills, which I'm struggling with right now. But they also said, I don't think I have enough education and I don't think I've had good training. So this is, again, insight for y'all to think about how you do work and what we can do. So again, with the research, this can take years to change some of this, but I want you to know that this whole study is available. I can get the link to you through Laura and she can distribute it to you. If you're like me and can't read 60 pages, my advice is go to the executive summary, then go to page 40 and read the next steps and what we got to do next. And that's what I need to know from you. What I am seeing, my vision for how this Office of Statewide Workforce Development is going to work is we have got to have a message. We are all doing our thing, but this report shares with us we're not getting through. We're either not channeling it through social media, the right social media networks. I think if we had a unified voice and a singular message, it might resonate better. I don't know. But what I see is that we are going to reach this workforce, millennial and Gen Z, through technology. And we have a project aligned with that technology. But we can get them in through the technology. But at the end of the day, we are going to have to connect on the human level. The research I just showed you said they want to interact. They want to feel like they belong. They want a sense of community. And all the data on internships, co-ops, and work-based learning says that not only do they want to get skills in their internship, that they are more likely to go to an internship that promises them networking and interacting with other people over the wage. And I will tell you also, the days of unpaid internships are bye-bye because a lot of them are working and making $15, $16 an hour at Mickey D's or TJ Maxx. And honestly, I'm tempted about the TJ Maxx on occasion. So what we're doing on the technology side of the world is we do have Find Your Future. I need for you to get out there and give us feedback about Find Your Future. I have been in your shoes. I've tried to use the systems that DEW has, that LMI has. It's not always easy to navigate. I feel your pain. And we are going to be in the process of developing something we hope that will tie all these disparate systems together into a one-stop shop for all of you. We can't tell people how to do their websites and how to collect data. We can't tell them all that, but we can build a central place for everybody to go. This is a long-term 5 to 6 year project that is very expensive and would have to be funded by the legislature. But what we've heard so far is we need it to be centralized, user-friendly, and that it integrates between workforce and education. So those are some of the things we know, but what does that really look like? I have my ideas, but it shouldn't be Rebecca's system. It's going to have to be all of our system if you want it. And we've got to hear from you. So what we did to just get us started is we built a website called Find Your Future SC. It's pretty static right now. It is a page where you can link to any of our agencies or anybody that wants to be on that website. We want you there. Organizations, nonprofits. We're going to be developing this over the next, year to 5 years to make it much more interactive, to adapt to the technology that's available and allowable through state government, like AI is not available right now. However, we have been experimenting with a company that wants to build this future portal. Their name is Future Fit AI. They have to disappear when they go out to bid, whenever we bid the project. We haven't gotten there yet. But they're right now, while they can be out there, they have been experimenting for the last 3 months, and we've got them a couple of more months, and that's about it. So what that means is you can go to this website and then go to the Future Finder tool, and you'll see a sign-up page, and it is using AI to translate your resume, your education. You can type it in, you can upload your resume, and it creates your independent skills assessment. it shows you with those skills what industries or what occupations you might want to consider. They will align it with occupations that are very similar to what you've already done if you have experience, but it'll also give you other industries you might consider. But if you need training, it can point you to where that training is located. But this is an experiment and it's temporary. So if you want to go out there, if you want students, you want your kids, whoever, please go and go within the next 6 to 8 weeks, because this has to go away just by virtue of it's an experiment. We have another experiment on the horizon with another vendor called Google. Google wants to bid on this big thing over here. They want the central portal too. And so Google is going to come up with, but it's going to be very limited in scope, much more limited than this is right now. But these, if when Google comes, it will be again a limited time. We'll try to let you know about that. So just so you're aware, those are projects, but this big portal, I can't do this without you. You have to be the voice of it, because that is the one thing that's missing from all of this is employer engagement. And I get the cynicism, I get the exhaustion, having to deal with education partners, having to deal with college partners, having to deal with agencies, but we've got to overcome that and get your voice there so that we build something you will use. And it just can't be done without you. So that's the technology. Then we get to the human projects. And all I can share with you is that the staff of the CCWD met last week, and they generated 6 excellent projects that we can work on in the next 12 to 18 months to allow us to collaborate and work good together. I can't share with you what those are because they haven't been voted on. They came up with 6 projects, and 3 or 4 will be chosen by the executive committee to bring before the full council in September. So I can't share with you all of them, but I can tell you that this one is more than likely 99.9% going to be approved. And I was told I could share that with y'all. But we have got to come up with a way to streamline this process, especially with our high school kids. That is your future workforce. They are in high school or will be in high school now, and you need to be talking and building relationships. And one of my happy examples is I work with the South Carolina Asphalt Pavement Association in my consultancy, and one of their young leaders took what I said to heart, and he was there with his regional workforce advisor last week distributing backpacks and sharing his story, and he's a success story. But I feel like this, if done well, and it's going to take some work on the education side to get their forms not to be a different form for every school. Maybe we could get forms maybe in a region. I can't tell people how to do their jobs, but we're going to suggest. And then on the other side, businesses, same deal, that y'all be intentional about what internships look like. And that because Gen Zs are who they are, internships for them is about networking and relationship building and someone being a role model for them in the workplace. So things I need from you, because this will all have been a waste of your time if you listen to me rattle, rattle, rattle and all that, and I'll let y'all ask me questions and I'll shut up. But I also say, if you've got to take one thing I said today and do something different, and then our time will have been worth it. So I would love for you to get the link for the South Carolina Perceptions Report and read it and see what y'all could be doing as your organization, 10 at the top, and how we can work with you through the Office of Statewide Workforce Development. Go check out the website if you feel so inclined to sign up for the Future Finder AI component, which is going to be gone in a couple of months. I would definitely encourage you to do that. On the website, there's a button on every page that says give us feedback. If you don't want to do it that way and you want to call me, email me, or Charles or Robert or Laura, give us your feedback. We need to hear from you. We have got to have you involved if we're going to solve this problem. And then let us know how we can help you recruit and retain your workforce, your ideas, your best practices. If you're doing a great internship, we want to hear your stories, and we want to showcase you on the Find Your Future sc.gov website as well. But we need you to get engaged, get off the couch, get off your desk chair, come help us. This is a big issue, and it's going to take all of us working together in a forward motion to make it happen. And I'm just honored I get to be a part of it. So that's all I had. This is my contact information. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Well, Rebecca, thank you. Such a lot of great information and in reality just scratching the surface. But it sounds like y'all have a lot of ideas and work ahead, and certainly all the folks on this call and many others here in the upstate are involved in trying to engage with the workforce of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and engaging with the work you guys are doing is very important. If you or Laura could put that link you referenced to the resource, I've had 2 or 3 people on the chat ask specifically for that. If you could include it,
I
that would be
will.
great. And there's some good chat comments and questions. If you want to look at those and maybe answer any of those specifically, we're going to move on to our a resource update. But Rebecca, thank you so much for being with us and all the great work you're doing. And please keep us informed as a resource if there's things we can share out to the folks here in the upstate. We want to help you all be successful.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and I'll do my best to answer some of these questions while y'all move on.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. So our resource update for today is one of my favorite people in the upstate. I got to meet Gail more than a decade ago, I think, when we started doing some work around senior issues and senior needs here in the upstate. And Gail Stokes is involved with the All About Seniors resource, which if you've been to a doctor's office or to a community center or just about anywhere where a senior will be there, you have probably seen the All About Seniors. And if you're like me, you're now close enough to being a senior that you've got to actually start reading and paying attention to where those resources are. So, Gail, thank you for being with us. And please share for the group a little bit about what you guys do with All About Seniors.
I am so honored to be here, Dean. And for those of you who do not know what All About Seniors looks like, here's a picture. Now you will not see this same color every time. Every edition it changes color. But All About Seniors Resource Referral Directory. And yes, Dean, I am the face of All About Seniors in the upstate, and I can identify with so many of those words that Rebecca talked about. To those young people coming into the industry, I am their coach and their mentor, and I do all of the networking. But Bill Sweezy is with us today, and Bill is the mastermind behind this. He is the owner and the publisher. So I have asked him to jump in and tell you all about seniors. Bill?
Yep. Yeah. Hey there, folks. Yeah, glad to be a part of the meeting. And I'll tell you, Rebecca's presentation was excellent. I learned a lot today. And as we age, we want to continue learning, which is important. And really a lot about what we do in publishing a resource directory, as we call that, versus a magazine. It's been called several different things. And kind of behind the what we wanted to accomplish, which we launched in 2005. So we've been in business for a little bit over 20 years now. I've circulated actually over 1.5 million copies just in the upstate alone, and we're now publishing in 4 different markets, and hopefully maybe one more. We'll see. But yeah, it was about creating a resource that kind of studying what people's needs were. And it's like understanding the millennials now, what their needs are for a job, and finding out that there's a lot of needs. There's more than 1 or 2 or 3 or 5, and there's more like 15 or 20. And those needs become critical, especially at later years in life, because your decisions, a lot of those are your final decisions, whether you're buying your last home or making your last move or buying your last car, and then figuring out what type of care you need or type of health care you need. So we wanted to create something that provided all those things, as to why All About Seniors now has over 50 categories of services. So, and it starts all the way from from adult daycare to aging in place to all the way to transportation. So pretty much A to Z. And it's a true resource directory, and it's comprehensive, which is something that no one else has produced, because a lot of it is cost wise and being comprehensive. But we knew if we created something comprehensive enough, then it would create a strong enough readership. And then the readership, obviously, we've got to make money somewhere. We do that via selling advertising and helping our partners generate business from that. But we also have, as a part of the publication, a lot of nonprofit organizations that we partner with. We try to elevate awareness about the services they provide in the community, and as well as a lot of government agencies. They get funding and usually want to spend it with us, which they do that in all the markets, which we're currently in the Charlotte market. Greater Charlotte market covers a little bit of South Carolina, then upstate Columbia, and then also in the Charleston market, which is where I reside now. I'm originally from Charlotte, and I've lived in Greenville part-time. Love Greenville. I'm there quite often. It's definitely a favorite place for me in South Carolina. But not only producing a resource directory, and Dean, you had mentioned it's in hundreds and hundreds of doctors' offices throughout the upstate, because we know as we age, there's more of a medical need and it's more diverse. We're going to more different types of doctors, and we would normally just have a general practitioner, at a younger age. So we're heavily circulated through churches, through all the senior centers, through the welcome centers is actually a place that we have a pretty high level of circulation because of folks moving into the area. And we know South Carolina is a pretty popular state, as North Carolina is also, for relocation. What was important also in just creating awareness about for seniors, because they're also at a critical age where they have to be more cautious, because I hate to say the kind of the bad word, but there's a lot of bad people out there that want to take advantage of that. So we also partner with Better Business Bureau and then the Office on Aging too, and try to create awareness about different scams and things that you need to be caution to the wind. If we looked at readership for us, and it was interesting with Rebecca going through all the kind of the age criteria from Gen Z all the way up. In millennials, we're kind of at maybe the tail end on millennials and more into the Gen X, because something that we never thought would happen. And for those of you that are a little bit younger, maybe in the millennial range, if your parents are still around or somewhere, eventually they're probably going to need some help. So we didn't grow up thinking that we were going to become a caregiver and there's going to be a role reversal at some point. And that happens to quite a few people. So our resource is used very heavily by caregivers. Readership for us is the highest percentage. It's about 70% or so is female. Because we know that in most cases that females are the majority of the caregivers out there. And so we created a directory that's also to help the seniors themselves, caregivers, and then also for industry professionals, because they use it and pass it on in their daily work life in helping other seniors and caregivers and families kind of navigate aging. Which we know is important. And we continue to adapt that as much as we can to the needs of those seniors. And it's just really out there understanding what the different needs are. What we have found in running this business, I looked at about a 10-year gap when we launched. And I really thought in the 2015 and maybe going into close to 2020, our print product, which we both are print and digital, would kind of start to lean out a little bit. And we watched circulation. But what we have found, which to my surprise, but our print product is still continue to be so viable to everyone. And a lot of that is because online has become just kind of risky for a lot of people, and just clicking on anything online could take you into a bad place. So still having actually a product that you can put in your hand, that you can share with a loved one, that has become actually more viable. It's actually increased. And some of our circulation areas have increased, and we see that by request. but we also do have a digital product online. So we're a full website, which is all about seniors.org, which is completely searchable, just like the magazines. It's organized just like the magazines. Also, it can generate. It's a lead source. You can send us, communicate with us to help you with more resources. So we really spend a lot of time and make a pretty good effort for that kind of going forward. But really, that's all kind of in a nutshell what we do. Gail has I've been blessed to have Gail, to be able to work with Gail over, I don't know, Gail, how many years. It's been quite a few years now. I don't know if I need to count those, as now I'm aging up into the senior world, and I've been working on the march toward Medicare this year, and it's been quite interesting when you actually have to do it yourself. And it's like the caregivers or the industry professionals, when all of a sudden they're getting in a personal caregiver role, they're realizing it's just as hard as it is for everyone else, even though they're the professional. Maybe they have a little better access to some of the resources out there. But we've been fortunate to work together for a long time, and she is the face of All About Seniors in the upstate and really all over the state. Because another thing we believe in and what we do is we serve our community, and that's extremely important to us. So, Dean, that's really, about all I had. That's kind of us in a nutshell. We're out there. We can be reached online, or to certainly you have Gail's contact information. We're here to serve the community. We try to give back as much as we can. We do a lot of work with nonprofits, as I had mentioned, and we participate as much as we can. That's all part of life for us. So as we successfully age.
Well, great. William, thank you so much. And if you are not familiar with All About Seniors, that, the reference that it's, you don't have to be a senior. More than likely your parents are, going to need some help. If you're a millennial or younger at some point. I've been dealing with that, and having resources is so critical. And we've done, in the time I've been here 15 years with TATT at the Top, we've done a number of repositories of resources and information, and it is incredibly challenging to keep those updated. And I don't think there is any that is more up to date than All About Seniors and the things they have there. So if you're interested or need resources or want to connect to make sure something you're doing is connected to seniors, please, Gail, if you can put your contact information in for folks, and we can certainly share that as well. So William and Gail, thank you both for being with us. And Rebecca, thank you as well. Going to wrap up with just a couple quick things. Tuesday, August 26th, the Department of Social Services is having a WorkLink Trade Skill Resource and Job Fair in Anderson at 1428 Perryman Drive. Valerie, are you still on? Do you want to say real quickly anything about this event? Okay, we may have lost Valerie, but we will share about this event going on in Anderson, this job fair, and certainly workforce is such a critical issue, and there's so many different elements and components of it. I did want to mention that Colby, to your answer, yes, it is available to any nonprofit or local government or community organization. I did want to mention that our next TAT Chat is scheduled for Thursday, September 11th, and we will be diving in to the issue of homelessness in the upstate. We have an event coming up in October called the Upstate Homelessness and Housing Forum. This will be the second one, and we're going to kind of tee up that issue with our speakers. We have Hannah Jarrett from A Place to Call Home in Spartanburg and Cody Carver from Greenville Together. Both of them are organizations that are working on homelessness. So hope you'll be able to join us on September 11th, and then join us for some of the other events and things going on. Thank you all so much for your time today, and I hope everyone has a great rest of Thursday and a great Friday, and then a wonderful weekend, and hopefully we'll have some time without some rain over the weekend. So goodbye, everybody.